In today's show, the Blazers look pretty good in part of the games against the Thunder and the Phoenix Suns. The bad news, the third quarter exists. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, talking about two games over the weekend. On Friday night, the Blazers lost to the Thunder. On Saturday, they lost to the Suns. These games were very different in many ways, very, very different in many ways. The thing they had in common was that the Blazers melted down in the third quarter. An absolute meltdown in both games in the third quarter. They lost these games during 12-minute stretches right out of halftime. We'll talk about the third quarter woes and why I kind of think the blame game misses the point. I think there is a tendency to do some finger pointing. This is the reason. We'll talk about why I think the blame game misses the point. We'll talk about specifically about their third quarter nightmares with some stats about where they've been and why things went wrong in those quarters. And we'll recap both those games with our fastest recap in the West. Let's do it. Let's get into it. Starting with Friday night. Blazers lose 137-114 to the undefeated Oklahoma City Thunder. That's a good basketball team. And the Blazers were down 17 in the first quarter, and it looked like a good basketball team was about to thrash the Blazers, but they cut it to only 13, get 37 points in that first quarter, down 37-24 after one. And you kind of think like, well, this might be what does the Blazers in. You know, that this is one of the most talented teams in the league. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's so hard to guard. They play to such a strong identity. They spread you out. They drive and kick relentlessly. They're one of the best turnover forcing teams in the league. Like, this is a team that could win the title, and the Blazers are not a team that can probably make the playoffs. And this is just like the disparity in talent, and the Blazers probably put together the best offensive quarter of the season in the second quarter. The best offensive quarter of the season. Blazers shoot 7 of 11 from 3, including and 63% overall from the field, including 7 from 11 from 3 in the second quarter. And they come back from down 17 early in that, or midway through the first, to tie the game. In fact, had the lead late, but Jalen Williams, J-Dub, hit a runner at the buzzer that tied the score back up. So Portland rallied. They played an awesome offensive quarter. They scored 68 points in the first half. You're feeling pretty darn good about where they're at. I was in the back at the game at the Moda Center, and one of a Blazers media member let them remain anonymous, but their last name rhymes with Bikin. And that anonymous media member said, do you think that was the Blazers' best quarter of the season? And I said something like, maybe, a couple more left. Went back up to my seat, and the good vibes didn't last long. Blazers tied at 70 with 9:46 left in the second quarter, in the third quarter. Come out of halftime, 2 minutes into the quarter, Chet Holmgren picks up a foul. Chet Holmgren's in foul trouble, and he's going to head to the bench. And the Thunder aren't very big, right? They don't have a way to, they're missing Jalen Williams, Jay Will, they're missing Isaiah Hartenstein. So they don't have centers on the roster, and they already play pretty small as is, but they even their size that they've added in the backup center and Williams, they're not available. So they put in Alex Caruso. The game is tied at 70, 9 minutes and 46 seconds left in the third quarter, and the Thunder go small, and it absolutely flummoxes the Blazers. They got nothing for it. They have no plan to attack this except to turn the ball over relentlessly. Blazers were outscored 36-13 over the final 9 minutes and 45 seconds. They go down after 3, 85-106. They just got their doors blown off in the third quarter, and the game's over, right? It wasn't 38-17 of the period. The Thunder shot 15 of 27 from the floor. That's 55%. They didn't even shoot that well from 3, but the Blazers, the big thing for me are two numbers, 12, and just a bonkers number of turnovers to have in a quarter, a bonkers number of turnovers. Lou Dort finishes the quarter with 4 steals, including 3 of the variety where he just rips it out of your hands with his 2 palms. He says, give me the ball, and goes the other way. Not like poke away steals or get in the passing lane. Give me the ball. Just rip it out of your hands type steals. Game's over. 106-85 after 3. There was a brief scare early in the fourth quarter. Anthony Simons goes up for a dunk in traffic and misses off the back rim and kind of hits his left forearm as he went up, or landed on it as he came down. Unclear. I think it was as he came down. He landed on it. He stays on the ground, and the Blazers, like, they're playing the next game. They're playing a game the next night. They're freaking down 20-some points, and their most dynamic offensive player, who hasn't been very good this season, but he's certainly still their most dynamic offensive player, in theory, is lying on the court, and they wave the white flag, and we get an extended run of meaningless garbage time. Or was it? Because in that fourth quarter, we got a little bit of look at Dalano Banton, and all of a sudden, Dalano Banton, who played about 9 minutes and scores 11 points on those 9 minutes, he's like, oh, Dalano Banton, remember him? He's got some offensive juice. Blazers lose 137-114. That's Friday night. Beatdown. Going to Phoenix, second night of a back-to-back. DeAndre Ayton back home. Yusuf Nurkic against his old team, and they were having a doing too much contest. The game started out pretty gross. Suns lead 22. This is your fast recap in the West for that game. Suns win 103-97. Suns lead 22-18 after 1. Neither team shot well in the first quarter. It was gross. When neither team hits 25 in a modern NBA game, yuck. It doesn't get much better in the second quarter. But the Blazers take the lead. The Blazers played. The Blazers outscored the Suns 29-21. Suns in the first 2 quarters scored 22 and 21 points. Like the Blazers, like the Suns, just offense just doesn't exist in the first half. Some of that is the Blazers playing some competitive defense. Some of that is like Kevin Durant missing a wide open 3 off a swing pass. It's like you could feel that this game wasn't like that the Blazers had played exceptionally well. This wasn't maybe their best second quarter of the season like it was against the Thunder. This was like, God, the Suns have sucked. they look bad, but you don't give it back, right? Blazers up 47-43 after 1. But this was a gross first half game. Blazers were freaking 9 of 38 on 2s in the first half. But the Suns, who ripped 3s, were 4 of 17 on 2s. Like, neither team could make a shot. 29, both teams shooting under 30% in the first half. Blazers shot 29.8%. Suns shot 27.3%. Gross game. Both teams shooting under 30% from the field, under 40% under 30% from the field, and including under 30% on twos. But the Blazers had committed just 3 turnovers in the first half. That was the secret to their sauce. Give yourselves a lot of chances. Give yourselves a lot of opportunities. But the Suns come out in the third quarter and wallop the Blazers. But they don't do it with it's not the put in a lineup that the Blazers can't solve and the coaching staff refuses to experiment with. It's like just they made shots. Brad Beal makes shots. Kevin Durant makes shots. Yusuf Nurkic, who made 1 shot the whole game, made his shot in the third quarter. They outscored the Blazers 44-18, but they just did it by just incredible shooting heat. They just got really hot. They struggled under 30% from the field and under 30% from 3 in the first half, and they shoot 9 of 18 from 3 in the third quarter. The Suns didn't turn the ball over after they committed 9 turnovers in the first half. They didn't waste possessions, and they made all their shots. You can't really do too much about threes. If a team is committed to taking 18 3-pointers in a quarter, you can maybe dictate who shoots threes a little bit better, but the Suns have enough talent that they're going to get the jumpers off. It's just you're in some ways maybe trying to limit who takes them, but if Yusuf Nurkic is going to hit some threes, you're going to lose. Grayson Allen came off the bench and hit 2 threes. They finished with 9 in the quarter, and the game's over, right? This is a mirror of the other game. It's 87-65 after 3. The Blazers the other nights were on Friday night. They're down 21 after 3. They're down now 22 after 3, and this game is cooked. But Chauncey Billups says, we're not cooked. I'm going to put out my let's give it a shot lineup. Scoot Henderson has been horrendous through 3 quarters, and the Blazers roll out Anthony Simons, Dalano Banton, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and Donovan Clingan to begin the fourth quarter, and they just hang around. The Suns don't put them away. It's not like they're in the game, but it's not swelling to 30. There's not a white flag coming. The Blazers basically didn't play, they played their bench the final 9 minutes, in part because I think the Anthony Simons injury scare and they were just getting overwhelmed by OKC on Friday. They're not bringing the bench in this game. They're kind of just in it, right? They're down 22. Okay, they're down 15. Okay, 13-point game. Okay, 11-point game. You get to the 2-minute mark. It's 97-91. 6 at 2 minutes is doable, but you need a little bit of help. You're going to need to shoot your way into a chance, and you're going to need some breaks on the other end. And the Blazers just shoot their way into having a chance. Deni Avdija hits a top of the key 3 after a Devin Booker bucket. Dalano Banton responds with a 3, and all of a sudden it's 99-97 with a minute left. 6-point game at the 2-minute mark, 2-point game at the 1-minute mark. Blazers are going to need a stop and a score. They get the stop. Brad Beal gets into the paint, can't score. Blazers go the other way. Anthony Simons feeds to the right wing to Dalano Banton, who's had a really nice quarter to date. Dalano Banton, at this point, is 2 of 3 from 3 and is lining up a 4th one. And the ball hits the rim softly, spins around once, spins around a second time, and rims out to the left. Suns get the rebound. Tyus Jones gets intentionally fouled. Blazers go down by 4. They come down. Anthony Simons kind of rushes a 3-pointer in the they're just like, scramble mode, down 4. You need to hit a 3 and make it happen and foul again. And Suns get the ball. Blazers don't foul right away, and they come away with a steal. They double team in the backcourt, come away with a steal. Deni Avdija, clock ticking under 7 seconds, has a layup to cut the lead to 2, and the Blazers have 1 timeout left, so they're going to be able to foul and give themselves an opportunity, and Deni smokes the layup. Blazers have to foul again. Suns make them both, and that's your 6-point game, 103-97. That's your fastest recaps in the West. Let's talk about the third quarters. Let's talk Dalano Banton. Let's talk about the blame game. Join me in the second segment, won't you? I think these were 2 games that had some positive moments, some majorly negative moments, and some things that you can kind of look at and say, this might be true, or you wish this went a little bit different. Let's talk third quarters. Let's talk DB in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. There are a lot of ways to pursue therapy, and BetterHelp is one of the most convenient and affordable options to do so. You do not need to be experiencing a major traumatic event to benefit from therapy. If you are experiencing a major acute trauma, talking to a therapist can be incredibly valuable. If you are just trying to navigate everyday life, talking to a therapist can be incredibly valuable. Speaking with a neutral third party can help you try to build some tools to be the best version of yourself, develop some appreciation for the work you've already done, and just maybe get a sense of gratitude for the effort you are putting in. Talking to a therapist can help you develop maybe some confidence that you're not as far away as you want, or at least you're heading in the right direction, or you want to. And wanting to is often a really big step. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and you're going to get matched with a licensed therapist. And then you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. Oops, I usually do that in my third segment. All right, let's get into it. We've made it to the middle of the show. Third quarters were a nightmare in both of these games. On Friday night, the Blazers were outscored 38-17 in the third. 38-17. Capped that off with a 44-18 third quarter on Saturday. Friday night, bad. Friday night bad, Saturday night also bad. The only difference is the Blazers made Saturday nights a game. They made it a game. It made you feel like, okay, this one isn't it wasn't as deflating because they hung around and came back. I think that might just be the difference also in quality of teams. The Phoenix is much more likely to they seem like much more of a mess around team than OKC, but I think the Blazers they gave it more of a reasonable attempt to change things. I want to talk about that, though. First, let's give an appreciation to Dalano Banton before we get into the third quarter stuff. But I want to talk. I have some third quarter stats and third quarter things I want to talk about here. But let's do some positivity before we get into that, because DB deserves it, and I don't want to tell you that things are bad. Okay, but DB. But I'll just say this: Dalano Banton played pretty well in a blowout like white flag situation on Friday night, and those minutes matter. He I don't think he was like super impressive, right? But he just like does what he does. He can get himself he can get shots off. And on this particular team, a dude who can go get shots, even though they don't go in, like a dude who can create offense. Like I can get myself, give me the ball and I can get myself to the rim. I can get myself to the foul line. I can just the ability to create looks. Like they just don't have a lot of dudes who can do that. I think Denny has struggled with that this season. Tumani's not quite there in his game. Scoot has been, save for some moments when he's been good at it, he's had some moments where he's been really bad, right? He's had some up and down times. DeAndre Ayton's not a shot creator. It's just like Ant and Jeremy Grant. They just need someone else who can get it done. And Anfernee Simons hasn't been very good. And Jeremy Grant had a couple early really good games, but has been hit or miss since then a little bit. With some efficiency challenges as he's gotten a little more attention. They need DB, not like in a major way, but in terms of his skill set, it is missing on the roster, and he played pretty well in garbage time. It's just I don't put a ton of stock into that, right? But you know who does is NBA coaches. Sometimes they see that can help us, and because Scoot was Scoot was just awful on Saturday. It was just a bad game, right? He just did not play well, and they were getting smoked in his minutes, and they just said, okay, let's try something else. And the something else they tried was Dalano Banton, and he gave the Blazers a real lift. He finishes that game against Phoenix. He didn't play the final 19 seconds because they were doing some offense-defense subs, but with 12 points on 5 of 7 shooting, he didn't take any free throws, but 2 assists, 2 steals. He blocked a shot. He only had 1 turnover. Like he was just active. He's a plus-minus king, right? Like the guys who played in the fourth quarter have really solid plus-minuses. They're the guys who impressed. The Blazers bench got absolutely shredded in this game because they came into the third quarter. That's like the substitution patterns, and things didn't get good in the third quarter. But DB comes in. DB Hooper, shout out to Basketball Ghoul, came in and hooped. And I don't know that he's going to have a spot in the rotation every night because like this team is committed to Scoot Henderson, and they probably should be. They probably kind of need to figure out what they've got with Scoot more than like benching him for Dalano Banton, who's 4 months younger than Anfernee Simons. It's not like he's like this youthful guy. It's the same age as their other guard. Neither of them are old, but you know what I'm saying? It's like this is what DB's going to give you, and he's not going to be able to do it every night. And some of it is maybe the ball went in tonight, 2 of 4 from 3. If he doesn't shoot well, it doesn't feel the same. But respect to DB because he played well on Friday and blowout in garbage time in a blowout situation, and then he earned the right to play some more on Saturday, and he almost saved the dang game. If that shot rims in with 28 seconds left, his 3, the Suns get it back. They try to kill clock. They take half a minute off the clock. The Blazers have a shot to take the lead with 30 seconds left, and a really soft miss from Dalano Banton, one that he's 2 of 3 from 3. Takes, right wing jumper that he could have hit, but it doesn't go in. If it does, this show's a lot different, and Dalano Banton is the thing that we lead it with, but if not, he gets a second segment treatment. Respect. Okay, the third quarter stuff, and then we'll talk blame kind of in this game. On Friday, okay, let's start here. When people criticize coaches, they often use what I think is a tired trope of doesn't make any adjustments. That's just like someone who doesn't know what to say. They don't have a specific critique of the coach, so they'll say, oh, it doesn't make adjustments. I don't like his lineups. He doesn't make adjustments. Let's be really specific with what happened. Because I think if you're going to be critical of someone, being critical in a very precise way is much more convincing than using tired tropes, tired sports fan tropes. What the Blazers did wrong is they chased the size advantage that didn't exist, and then they didn't ever adjust to saying, this doesn't work, let's try something different. When the Thunder went small, they had done it in the first half too, but they had mostly played a smaller lineup. With Klingon on the court, and the Blazers bailed on Klingon because he really can't mash against post-ups. He doesn't have a post game, so they were like, no, let's get that out of here. But they had also done it with rookies Dylan Jones and AJ Mitchell on the floor. It wasn't truly the same. And the Thunder didn't start out to go small, right? Chet Holmgren picked up a foul early in the quarter. They said, okay, who's on the bench? Caruso. Let's do it. Let's go small. And then they played really precise, really, really specific style of defense. They fronted DeAndre Ayton in the post, and then when the Blazers would throw the lob in, they would crash hard on the backside to try to knock it away. They would help off the perimeter, particularly off the corners, and go get the ball. And they were going to send bodies to DeAndre Ayton and say, if you can beat us, like, we're not going to give you straight post-ups because we're going to front the post. And if you can beat us by throwing it over the top, so be it. But we're going to make this really hard because you're going to see bodies in the paint. We're going to swarm. We're going to be small. We're going to force turnovers. And the Blazers just chased the DeAndre Ayton stuff all freaking night. They chased the whole third quarter. Okay, we have an advantage. Let's try to get it in there. And they turned the ball over 12 times. By my count, charting in my notebook, they charted 5 of those 12 turnovers were just trying to get the ball into DA, just fruitless passes inside. So here's what you can actually do. One, the Blazers had a couple. They didn't, Chauncey didn't take a timeout in the third quarter till the game was an 18-point lead. But Mark Daigneault took 2 timeouts, including one early on a challenge on a Chet Holmgren foul, but one when the run had just sort of halfway started. It was 80-70, 80-78, I believe. That was the time to say, okay, let's go small. Let's put Jabari Walker in there. Let's show our small lineup, and because this isn't really working. But then the avalanche came. They come back out on the court, and the avalanche came. And one of the reasons Chauncey Billups didn't take a timeout is because he only had 4 left. He didn't want to take an early timeout in the third quarter because he had used 2 timeouts in the first half, and he had used another timeout challenging a non-shooting foul. He had 4 timeouts at the 6-minute mark of the second quarter. Bad game management in the first half didn't allow him to be as comfortable managing the game in the second half, and then he didn't just put someone at the scorer's table and say, we're going to go small. That is the lack of adjustments they made. 1, they didn't change the lineup because 2, they kept chasing the mismatch inside. They continually looked to chase a mismatch that wasn't an advantage. And 3, because they had screwed up the first half game management, they weren't comfortable adjusting what they did in the third quarter. They didn't want to call their timeouts and put themselves in a position where, early in that run, you're down 12. It's like, well, I don't want to go into the fourth quarter owing a mandatory timeout with only 3 left and then have 2 at the end of the game. If we're in it, like, you want to survive because you called too many timeouts in the first half. Instead of having 5, you had 4, and you had 4 for the final 6 minutes of the second quarter. And it's like, it's bad game management and was bad planning. This is the adjustments that they failed to make there. The Blazers had dominated the second quarter, played perhaps their best quarter of the season in the second quarter by generating good 3-point looks. The Thunder were helping off Toumani Camara. They were helping off Ryan Rupert aggressively on drives, and the Blazers said, let's get them the ball and see if they can beat him. And Rupert was good and made his shots against the Thunder. He finished with 14 and made a career-high 4 3-pointers, 4 of 7 from 3. Toumani Camara made 3s in that game as well. He finished 3 of 5 from 3. But they only took 2 threes in the third quarter because they didn't generate looks. Like, they only took 13 shots in the third quarter because they turned the ball over so much. But they only took such a low percentage of the looks from threes because that is actually where they had found success, and they stopped playing to an identity. The Thunder had a very specific plan of how they were going to do things, and if you're going to burn them, you're going to burn them. And the Blazers turned the ball over and didn't get rebounds, give up 6 offensive boards to a small team, the players didn't play well, Chauncey Billups didn't coach well, and things went south in a hurry against a very, very good Thunder team. Would the Blazers have won the game if they freaking put Jabari Walker in and for DeAndre Ayton in the third quarter? No, probably not, right? The Thunder would have probably still overwhelmed them and beat them by 15 or whatever. But the process has to be better, and I think that's the problem. Okay, I've gone a little long. Let's talk Suns third quarter and blame game in the fourth. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let's talk FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I'm recording this during the late window of games on NFL Sunday, and if you're ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, it's a great time to do it because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. You can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And once you're there, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Still a pass versus point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So I think when you talk no adjustments, I think being really specific about adjustments matters. But I would also flip this, right? The OKC was a lack of. The Thunder were playing a very specific style, perhaps a style that only they can play, perhaps a style that you actually can't beat by doing something different, right? By putting, like, Jabari Walker's worse than DeAndre Ayton, but like putting, trying to put a lineup that maybe makes more sense around it. Maybe it doesn't do anything, but I thought the process was bad there, and the process was bad because of bad game management, and the process was bad because of lack of reacting to an opponent that did something different. And even if you don't want to change the lineup, continuing to force feed and DeAndre Ayton the post when it wasn't actually benefiting you in any way was just terrible process. And I asked Chauncey Billups if he felt like his team chased that a little bit, and he said he did, and he blamed it on youth. The team's young. You got to coach the team you have. If they continually make the same mistake, that's the job, is to coach. I think it's important to be specific if you're gonna criticize an NBA coach as like someone in my position, to be specific about your criticisms. I don't claim to be smarter than anyone who works in the NBA, but if I'm going to be critical, I want to be critical in a very specific way. And with that said, on Saturday night, another terrible third quarter, and I'll just say this: you're not gonna do anything about that. If they're gonna make 9 threes in the quarter, you're gonna have a bad time. Here's the issue. Sometimes it is the lack of reaction. It is being reactive as opposed to proactive. And sometimes you're just having a team that's not as talented as the other team. Would putting Dalano Banton into the game earlier help the Blazers offense? Yeah, probably. But Scoot didn't even come in until the 6-minute mark of the third quarter. The first 15 seconds of the first half didn't go great. The second half against Phoenix didn't go great. Like it had already started by the time like the Blazers made their first subs, right? Like it was happening against, I think the Blazers starting lineup is their best players. I think those are their 5 best players. So it's like with their best players on the court, it was already happening. So I don't think you can say like, oh, well, they just didn't get to it. This wasn't a game where they didn't get to the adjustment sooner. Scoot was bad. He played a little bit in the second half. He played his 6 minutes in the second half, and it's like, yeah, we're going to try something different. I think they did adjust, and it worked. And I'm not sure that making that adjustment earlier like drastically changes the outcome. Just like I don't think the going small against the Thunder would have drastically changed the outcome, but the process was fine against Phoenix. Phoenix, a team with a bunch of dudes who can score, started hitting shots. And with Mike Budenholzer, they are chucking threes, right? Like they're just shooting a bunch more threes. And they took 18 in the quarter, and the Blazers went 1 of 11 from deep. You're minus 24 in the quarter from 3, you're going to have a bad time. The Suns, who had 9 turnovers in the third quarter, had 0 in the third 0 and 9 turnovers in the first half, had 0 in the third quarter. They took care of the ball, they made shots. I don't think that that's a coaching problem. So to chalk it all up to lack of adjustments is quite frankly lazy, and it's nonsense. Sometimes the Blazers this season are going to get out-talented because they don't have enough talent to hang. And you can say they should be better than they've been, but I kind of think they've been fine. They've had some real stinkers, but they've been competitive. Quite frankly, I would say this season, to begin the year, significantly more enjoyable to watch than they were a year ago. I feel strongly about that. sometimes talent is going to cost them, right? And they had a chance to win this game, and I'm not sure that you could really hope for too much more than hanging tough, showing some resilience. The coach changes the lineup, makes an adjustment, and his team responds by giving themselves a three-pointer to take the lead in the final 30 seconds and a layup to cut it to 2 in the final 10 seconds, and they miss them both. The stat is out there, though. The Blazers, this is shared by Tom Haberstroh, who works for the Blazers broadcast. The Blazers are minus 77 in third quarters this year, and in all other quarters, they are plus 20. They've outscored their opponents by 20 in the first, second, and fourth quarters combined. In the third quarter this season, they have been outscored by 77 points across 7 games. That means they're, on average, losing each third quarter by double digits. Yeah, they have some challenges coming out of halftime, but some of this is just the nature of talent. The Blazers hang tough. The other team with more talented players says, okay, we know where we can get our points now. And we have Kevin Durant and they don't. We have Devin Booker and they don't. We're going to create advantages. We're going to get into what we want to get into. And Brad Beal and Grayson Allen are going to make shots. It's not always talent. Some of it is coaching. Some of it is adjustments. Some of it is everything. And that's why I think the blame game misses the point. One of the things that I think has been frustrating for me as someone who covers this team daily Monday through Friday, 5 days a week on this show is like I hear from fans in YouTube comments and emails and stuff. And it's like everyone wants it to be one thing. Anthony Simons sucks, and that's what's holding the Blazers back. Chauncey Billups can't coach his way out of a paper bag, and that's why this team's bad. And if they weren't that, then they'd be this. Anthony Simons hasn't been good. I think Chauncey Billups had a pretty bad game against the Thunder on Friday. He wasn't good in that game. Ant has struggled. He struggled to begin the game against Phoenix, and then kind of finally got himself going. And I don't think every time it's been good this year, right? I think all of those things can be true. I think I think the Blazers are going to be up against a talent deficit nearly every time they take the floor in games this season. It doesn't have to be one thing. You don't have to pick the thing to blame. And I think that's why, for me, in my perspective, I just like to offer this. When you are frustrated with this team, could they be better? Yeah. Do you think that they've had issues with the coaching staff? Do you think they've had issues with the starting point guard? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. But it's a combination of things, and it always is. It doesn't have to be one thing. The blame game, picking one person to point the finger at, misses the reality of this. And I think these 2 games against Phoenix and Oklahoma City really illustrate that. The Blazers played awesome in the second quarter. Does Chauncey Billups get credit for that? No, I don't think we do. I don't think we give him credit for that, right? I don't think anyone has given Chauncey Billups credit for the Blazers playing perhaps their best quarter of the season on Friday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder, because it came out in the third quarter and they just got embarrassed. They just got boat raced by a team that made an adjustment that they never responded to and were maybe incapable of responding to, but they didn't do anything. Their process was to try the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. Criticism, right? And on Saturday, it's like, do you criticize the Blazers for coming out and getting walloped in the third quarter yet again? Or do you criticize them for charging or praise them for charging back in the fourth quarter? You don't have to pick. You can allow the nuance of the long NBA season to just settle in comfortably. Wear that thing like a snuggie. Velcro it in the back. Pull up your popcorn. I guess snuggie as it was mostly people at by campfires. Put your feet up by the campfire when you're car camping with your snuggie on. The snuggie of nuance, and say it's a combination of things that goes wrong. And the Blazers have had some bad coaching moments. They've had some bad playing moments, and they have a small margin for error because they're just not as talented as other teams. They just don't. They just straight up do not have the level of talent as the teams like Phoenix and OKC. So their margin for error is going to be small. On Friday, they got walloped because they didn't give themselves an opportunity. And on Sunday, they pushed the right buttons and hung in it and had enough perseverance to give themselves an opportunity. The nuance snuggie, The Snuggie of Nuance? We'll go with the Snuggie of Nuance. I would like to make this show the Snuggie of Nuance. It doesn't fit you particularly well, but it fits everyone okay. That's the goal of this program, I guess. And with that stupid metaphor, I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for listening to the program. Tell your friends about it. Don't tell them about the Snuggie thing, please. Let's just keep that between you and me. But come back for tomorrow's show. Hoping to get a couple interviews I am going to try to nail down this week. So we've got some fun folks to talk to, but I can't tease them just yet because we haven't scheduled them. But 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.